Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. It's me, Callum, and welcome back to the channel. First of all, a huge thank you to everybody who supported my last video, my channel in general. My mind was blown genuinely. I didn't think my channel would take off like that from the game's release. I was of course expecting, oh, the video might get 2,000 views, or maybe 3,000 views. I might get 20 subs from it. No, over 100 subs, almost 7,000 views. I am, like I said, and this has just completely locked my mind in. I'm gonna make content. I didn't make something for the release weekend because I was busy for the day one race, but now I get to talk about it. So yeah, sit back, relax, grab a snack. These are my thoughts on the day one raid and the raid in general. But before we talk about the raid race itself, a bit of context. This is the same raid in terms of mechanics as the one from the alpha over almost a year ago, the one from the NA beta that I was part of, the CN beta shortly before release, and now. However, it didn't affect the raid knowledge too much, as the mechanics aren't the hard part. It is surviving being almost 8,000 to 9,000 light power below. But a funny thing is that in the NA beta, the one I played, no one cleared day one. So it was adjusted for the CN beta, where there was some clears, and then again for this beta, and we had almost 20 or 30 day one clears. So overall, they did a good job in that. Just noticed that I called the release the latest beta. That wasn't intentional, but it is kind of reflective of my thoughts, so that's kind of funny. But I'll get into that in a different video, coming soon. And as I implied, the cool thing about this raid is that when it releases, in the several tests that this game has had, outside of release now of course, it's always been the first truly difficult content and always broken that stigma of, oh, it's a mobile game, it's easy. And the excitement was of course there for this to happen again, especially with the far larger audience now, with release being here and the game being open to everyone. And our preparation was simple. There was a server cap, of course, and you could only level to level 20 on day 1, level 35 on day 2, 45 on day 3, and then on day 4 on the raid release, 50. The raid came out 4 hours after your local reset time on your server, which gave you time to hit level 50 since that unlocked at the same time, and also get some mythics, which were available for the first time on that day. Issue is, of course, is that reward levels are tied to your account level. Thus, getting the mythic you need for a big power boost is random and dependent on, will you even get a drop? Will that drop be the correct slot? In my case, I had a 3 hour, because I got some mythics for the first hour. But for 3 hours before the raid came out, I did not get a single mythic, let alone, of course, what I wanted, which was the auto rifle for Wolf, since that would have been a big boost. So I had to go into the raid roughly 500 power lower than I wanted to be. However, I was still 31,000, as were most of my teammates, like maybe 30,000, 31. Though I think one of them, another Wolf, was also 32,000, but they had the mythic auto rifle. I did kind of get jealous on that, but yeah. So definitely it was a rush. It kind of got us to log in and play more every day, even though we'd done this content, like all of us were beta testers before. But overall prep was easy. It wasn't that difficult. The last day was the only scuffed one due to the time restriction and the RNG drop problem, combined with the energy system, which really hasn't been improved. The basic rewards are still ass. Completely honest, I tested them essentially, and they just kept dropping useless stuff for me. But we live and learn. It was still fun nonetheless, and I got to spend some quality time with the bros. At the start, our run was plagued by a lot of blunders. For example, we had trouble with comms early on because one of our teammates wasn't able to come online onto the Discord call, and it took a bit to agree on a chain of operations, like which elite do we target first, because we only have to attack one, especially in the second encounter. But we did quickly optimize this kind of stuff, which is why we had a decent time on the first and second encounter. We held 5th place on the second encounter clear for a good while. However, a pretty blatant and annoying issue that came up later on the boss encounter, the third one, was the insanely skewed damage check towards Tan 2 and Gwyn, due to precision damage being the best, because Isaac has a huge precision spot that you can hit. And this meant that Gwyn, who had basically an exotic you could buy, and you could only get it that way for day one, had a massive advantage. For example, the first one phase, which happened on day one, was with 3 Tans and 3 Gwyns, and all Gwyns had the Concerto exotic. Which at least, sure, it isn't RNG, it's not gacha, but you do need to have to spend for it. On top of that, a non-one phase strat was having a Kabar in your team, because he could blind enemies and he can also, give you a barricade. But also on top of all of that, the Battle Pass exotic, Furies 3, is like a sort of debuff and makes it easier for your team to hit the crit spot and stuff. But that costs money right now because you can't reach level 50 realistically, or no, you just can't straight up without spending money. Thus, that was another exotic. And the worst part, in my opinion, was that despite the fact that we did have a free exotic with South Leonixny Smart Bombs, with its catalyst, which meant that Wolf was the character who could hit the highest power level on day one, by being 5 for the power above even Gwyn, who was a 5-star. Even then, because the boss was crit based, you wanted to crit him, his smart bombs just did less damage. They had less damage potential because hitting Chris with a shotgun or a sniper, or machine gun even, was more worthwhile. This meant that at the end of the day, we struggled due to that. And this meant mainly on the boss encounter, because like I said, the first encounter is essentially just Crota's end bridge encounter, but with a bit of a twist. And the twist is just, it's fallen now. But it's fun. I'm not gonna lie, I think it does test a bit of coordination right away, because everyone needs their own spots. The game does not auto-assign you or anything like that, thankfully, so you are challenged in that. The second encounter also, because you need to cooperate with your other teammate who is protecting the battery holder, and if you are the battery holder, you need to hope that your 2 bodyguards do actually do their job properly and don't just forget you and run off. It was something that we had to optimize as well, because we hadn't done this, especially this encounter, because it wasn't that popular during the beta. We had to actually just get into the groove of it, but we did clear it fast, like I said. Third encounter, however, that is where, due to the design of the arena and due to stuff like Shinka's being true annihilation dudes, you can't just ignore them. It turned to a situation where we had to just become a well-oiled machine in terms of, again, chain of operations. Oh, Tan, you break the shield of the champion of the Shinka. Me, I'm Wolf, I have to nuke him immediately. Gwyn, save your ammo for this other Shinka, etc, etc. And it was honestly peak Destiny. That is my biggest, that last encounter, under light and all that jazz, genuinely amazing. Because at some point we knew the mechanics and we're hitting stuff, but because of bad communication, we had a bad team comp at the start that cost us, then we optimized and we hit DPS phase every time, without dying even. But eventually reached the problem where we just died afterwards, because after your first, you get 2 damage phases at Izakas. And after the first one, the lethality of all the ads and of Izakas itself goes up. And we should have probably switched around a bit more. We were inflexible. This is due to me and a teammate lacking Tan and Gwyn, which does show how bad the gacha can be. If you just don't have a character type, then you just can't be as good of a teammate as if you did. An example would be, a Destiny 2 example would be if you didn't have, a DLC, if stasis was required for a Grandmaster, or you really needed stasis and you didn't have it, well, you'd be a worse teammate, even if you were a good player. But of course, there was ways to work around it. If I had just leveled Kabar without Furies 3, or if I had bought the Battle Pass for $5, probably would have done a lot better. Ultimately, yeah, we didn't manage to do day one. Sucks. We did spend a lot of time on it, but at some point, both me and another teammate, we had to call it quits because it was getting too late for me, and he had to go somewhere else, my teammate. And then the rest of our team, just even though they gathered the team, they didn't beat it again. But the next day, 24 hours later, we gathered up again, and we just did it in the second try. And it went amazingly, honestly. We beat it with the 0 revives remaining. I'm probably using that gameplay right now. I didn't record day one because I wanted every possible frame, and I did want to crash it. I wanted to avoid everything. But yeah, I'm probably throwing in some screenshots here and there from a teammate who was streaming, because that way, I can show you the damage we did and stuff. But ultimately, I think the raid was overall just amazing and a great time, especially doing it day one, especially with a coordinated team. It is definitely giving me hope for Destiny Rising. in the future, in all the steps it could take to just be traditional style Destiny 2, Destiny, just Destiny, not Destiny 2, traditional Destiny, where also due to the fact that class roles are far more defined, at least like the character roles are far more defined, you also get a bit more team cohesion. And I talked about this I believe in a previous video. Maybe it was my hopes video, hopes and fears. I'd have mentioned that due to being more distinct and due to classes not encroaching on each other as much, it means that everybody feels more like you have to well-oiled machine, which was definitely what we got to experience. And that's kind of my thoughts on it. I think I recommend that you also try and do a day one next time. The next raid will be hard mode, Monolith Fall. They're gonna change the mechanics, they said. I'm expecting contest modifier. I'm expecting fair play, which will disable dupes and exotic catalysts. I 100% expect this. If it doesn't happen, I will be disappointed, because then we're back to a very blatant issue, which is people are going to have very well upgraded characters because they got lucky or because they spent money. And that was already a problem right now, like I said, where 2 characters would be so much more useful by spending money and only spending money. There was no alternative. That is my big criticism, that the gacha bled into this awesome experience. But when you close your eyes, if you close your eyes and then played the game, you had fun. I'll be real. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I use a new mic for this too. I'm testing new mics instead of using my laptop built-in mic, so I can bring you better videos. Yeah, that's it from me. I'm thankful you watched it. If you thought my thoughts were good, they were bad, they were confusing, ask in the comments. I read them, like I said. Subscribe for more. I got a cool video coming up soon. It's gonna be funny. Trust me. Might take a bit to come out, but it's gonna be good. In the meantime, tomorrow we're gonna get our first exotic for free, like free exotic from the daily login. And once PvP is back on the weekend, I'm gonna start finally making the kind of videos I want to make. And with all that said, I am once again thankful that you watched this. I wish you a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.